are.
How can Jimmy Kimmel live with him? Like, Jimmy Kimmel is a talented guy, and I don't think he's like an evil person or something, but he's made this deal where he just serves power and attacks anybody who challenges power. Like, how can, honestly, how can he look in the mirror and say, I'm doing something honorable? Like, how can he live with himself? How can his wife sleep with him?
Well, it'd be
I mean
it'd be one thing.
He's had a real problem with Elon from the beginning of this thing, but it's like he's in this leftist thought bubble. He is in the most leftist thought bubble.
Hold on tight, folks, because what I'm about to lay down is going to flip everything you thought you knew about late night TV upside down. You think Jimmy Kimmel is just another comedian cracking jokes? Think again. This isn't just about one guy getting roasted. It's about a whole system crumbling. Get ready to witness a takedown of epic proportions, a clash of titans where the old guard gets schooled by the new rebels. By the end of this, you'll see Kimmel, Rogan, and Carlson not as individuals, but as symbols of a media landscape in total upheaval. Promise? By the end of this, you'll understand why Kimmel's reign is over.
Treating each other equally is joking about each other indiscriminately. So yeah, I think comedians who, and this is why so much of comedy is not funny today. It's my chief criticism of like late night comedy, which I find unwatchable. I think it's totally unwatchable.
But also contemptible. I mean, they're collaborators.
They're just like the fact checkers. They're guardians of the narrative.
There's a certain dark comedy to watching a late night host get publicly dissected by two guys who operate in completely different universes. You've got Joe Rogan, the podcast king who built an empire on elk meat, conspiracy theories, and unfiltered conversations. On the other side, there's Tucker Carlson, the cable news defector who left a trail of scorched earth where Fox News once stood. And caught in the crossfire, Jimmy Kimmel, desperately clinging to relevance like a dad trying to understand TikTok. But this whole saga didn't explode overnight. It started subtly, with Kimmel's jokes becoming increasingly stale, recycled by a team of writers who seemingly lost their mojo after Trump left office. What was once a mildly amusing late-night routine slowly transformed into a 5-minute corporate speech, interrupted by the desperate flashing of applause signs.
There's not a chance in hell that this is funny or gonna work. And when you see those flat, corny, late-night monologue jokes with no audience, Colbert, there's Jimmy Kimmel, there's Fallon. What they're doing is just like reading off of a teleprompter. So a bunch of really good joke writers wrote them some stuff, and then they're playing to the audience, and the audience is like laughing, so they get this feedback, and they know how to do that. They stand there, and there's applause signs, and then there's producers. There's the warm-up guy that's literally telling people to applaud. They're like, okay, explain to the people.
Think about it. Kimmel comes out, the audience is practically trained to clap. So predictable. Now, when Joe Rogan and Tucker Carlson finally set their sights on Kimmel, they didn't need to plan a coordinated attack. Kimmel's carefully crafted persona was already crumbling from within. Rogan and Carlson simply provided the kindling. Let's start with Joe Rogan, the guy who's made a fortune letting scientists, comedians, and self-proclaimed Bigfoot experts speak their minds for 3 straight hours. In a recent podcast episode, sandwiched between a discussion on DMT and a rant about how modern shoes are ruining our feet, Rogan casually dismantled the entire concept of mainstream comedy. He didn't name names, but he didn't have to. When you describe a washed-up host delivering reheated political jokes written by interns and pretending it's edgy, one person's tears are soaking the teleprompter. Rogan's disdain dripped with passive-aggressive elegance. He mocked the sanitized, scripted nature of late-night shows without ever holding up Kimmel's name for the world to see. Rogan's brand of comedy thrives on discomfort, rambling tangents, and guests who dare to challenge conventional wisdom. Kimmel's? Safe sarcasm with a studio audience trained like Pavlov's dogs. If Rogan's podcast is the Wild West of ideas, Kimmel's show is a Disney cruise sponsored by flu shots and political correctness. The real sting? Rogan, the guy vilified for questioning the mainstream health narrative, pulls in 11 million downloads per episode. Kimmel, the corporate jester, is bleeding viewers faster than a sinking ship in shark-infested waters.
If his job wasn't to be a comedian and to do that, but his job is to be he's supposed to be funny, and comedians are supposed to hold people in positions of power accountable.
Suck up
Yeah,
to the people in charge.
Exactly.
He's their Praetorian guard.
Yeah,
and it's like the self-hatred he must feel, because he wasn't always. That's my point. Yeah. I mean, Colbert has always been a hard partisan, talented guy, but obviously he's not a comedian. But Kimmel was a comedian. Like, how does he? I don't understand
I don't know.
how he can sleep.
He might buy into the narrative to the extent that he thinks it's morally wrong to joke about these certain topics.
But it's not just that. He's like pouring hot oil on the peasants from the parapet. Pouring hot oil on the peasants from the parapet. Right. Like, he's hurting anyone who challenges the king. Right. It's crazy.
It is crazy. It's upside down. The comedians should be poking holes in the popular narrative, not propping it up.
Jimmy Kimmel is. Like, truly. No, I mean it.
You said it,
no
not me.
amount of money is worth what he's doing, in my opinion.
Yeah, but it's how they control speech and thought. It's how if your worldview is incoherent and impossible to defend rationally,
yes,
then you have to insulate it from criticism. And what's the most effective kind of criticism there is? I think it's mockery, which exposes foolishness for what it is. So it makes perfect sense to me.
Kimmel, decked out in a suit, throws shade from his polished stage. Rogan, hoodie-clad, shrugs it off and laughs all the way to a $200 million Spotify deal. The irony is almost too much to bear. One peddles truth-seeking with a joint in hand, the other delivers punchlines with the enthusiasm of a hotel lobby pianist. And then there's Tucker, the king of cable chaos, now a social media sniper. While Rogan roasted Kimmel with a casual disdain, Tucker Carlson set him ablaze with a grin and walked away humming patriotic tunes. Freed from the constraints of Fox News, Tucker has fully embraced his inner digital outlaw. No more FCC regulations, no more meddling executive producers. Just Tucker, a webcam, and a burning desire to take down every talking head still clinging to their sad careers. In one of his viral segments, Tucker unleashed a monologue that cut through Hollywood hypocrisy like a hot knife through butter. Without dignifying Kimmel with a name, he tore apart the very archetype of the host who hides their cluelessness behind forced laughter. Late-night comedians, Tucker argued, have become mere teleprompter readers, regurgitating safe content approved by studio executives, sponsors, and focus groups. Again, no names needed. When the shoe fits that perfectly, it cuts off the circulation.
I honestly, I was mistaken about this. It's something I admit I was wrong about, is when early on, when we first started getting fact-checked and we first started having these issues with censorship with the Babylon Bee, it was my belief that humor, these were humorless scolds who just didn't think our jokes were funny, and they thought they were offensive and they were being hypersensitive. And that's not the case.
No, it's not. You're going through the stages of realization.
The stages of realization. I eventually learned and came to realize that it's not humor. Humor is a vehicle for truth delivery. They don't like the fact that the narrative is being challenged in a way that's effective, and so they have to shut you up.
In that case, you think that's him or a writer? Can't you tell?
Jimmy Kimmel? No, it's him, for sure.
Okay.
It wasn't about ratings, it was about relevance. Carlson pointed out, almost as an aside, that these supposed rebels of comedy spend more time endorsing pharmaceutical products than telling actual jokes. The kings of satire now sound like walking disclaimers. What once tried to be a rogue voice in comedy now performs like he's auditioning for a position on the CDC's birthday party planning committee. Meanwhile, Tucker's following exploded. Unscripted, unfiltered, and completely indifferent to the approval of the very crowd Kimmel panders to nightly. The brilliance of this takedown lies in the fact that Rogan and Tucker never shared a stage. They didn't coordinate a hit job. They just happened to shine a light on the same rotting corner of show business where Kimmel was tap dancing in a puddle of his own ego. Rogan laughed at the absurdity. Tucker dissected it with surgical precision. Together, without ever meeting, they orchestrated one of the most magnificent tag team demolitions in recent media history. And what makes it even more embarrassing for Kimmel is how easily preventable it all was. He could have stayed funny. He could have avoided becoming the punchline, but somewhere along the line, he traded charisma for corporate approval. Now, instead of making people laugh, he makes them check their watch. And that's the core of it. Rogan didn't need to directly insult Kimmel. All he had to do was embody everything Kimmel abandoned: authenticity, unpredictability, the courage to offend. Carlson didn't need to mention Kimmel's name at all. He just had to juxtapose the empty performance of late-night satire with his own brand of explosive, albeit radically different, truth-telling.
It's a good one.
He's a comic.
Yeah, it's a good one.
I mean, he used to host The Man Show. I mean, he's done some pretty outrageous shit back in the day.
Yeah.
You know, for hee-hees and haw-haws.
No, that's a good joke on top of a good joke.
Yeah, it's a good joke. Funny thing to say. He's had a real problem with Elon from the beginning of this thing, but it's like he's in this leftist thought bubble. He is in the most leftist thought bubble available, which is Hollywood. And, and I think also, he famously, there's some videos of him in blackface, and those came out, and he had apologized for them, and I think he took that hit and, like, really doubled down the other direction. I mean, that's just speculation. But he, now is a guy that goes after people like Elon Musk, which is, Elon is thought of as being, because he's willing to put people on with uncomfortable opinions, and he's releasing people that were banned from Twitter because of things that they had said. He's like, as long as you haven't done anything illegal, I'll let you back on.
Rogan doesn't.
The outcome? Kimmel resembles the unfunny middle manager at a Christmas party trying to DJ. Their audiences couldn't be more different either. Rogan's fans are fiercely loyal, tattooed, and probably fermenting their own kombucha. Tucker's viewers are politically charged, meme-wielding insomniacs who see every episode as a gladiator match. Kimmel's audience? People who fell asleep with the remote in their hand or got lost on their way to The View. It's not even a competition. It's a demolition. This wasn't a war of equals. It was a one-sided roast cooked on two separate grills. Rogan slow-smoked him with dry sarcasm. Tucker flambéed him with righteous indignation and a generous helping of smugness. Kimmel just stood there, the human embodiment of please clap. As both men continue to dominate their respective spheres, Kimmel remains trapped in a format that even cable news is trying to escape. And while he peddles politics under the guise of comedy, Rogan explores psychedelic consciousness and bear attacks with astrophysicists, and Tucker gleefully drops video bombs from a room that resembles a mid-century bunker. It's not just that Kimmel got roasted, it's that he got roasted in stereo. One voice from the left-leaning libertarian chaos of podcasts, the other from the right-wing rage machine of post-cable media. And somehow, both men, ideologically miles apart, found common ground in the fertile soil of Kimmel's failure. That's not a coincidence. That's a red flag with a flashing light.
There are a lot of people who are like on your side because they're for free speech, who are not actually for free speech at all, who are pushing, a very specific foreign policy agenda, for example, and using another issue to lower your defenses and let themselves into your brain. And I think that's really sinister, really, really, really sinister. And it's becoming more obvious now. Like, if you're for free speech, then you're just for free speech because you support the principle.
Carlson doesn't ask for forgiveness. Tucker doesn't either. Kimmel, sadly, is stuck chasing laughs from a crowd that's already left the building. His show is a time capsule of a political moment that's long gone. And every time he opens his mouth, it's like watching someone try to sell expired milk with a wink. So here's the thing. Joe Rogan and Tucker Carlson couldn't be more different if they tried. Joe's the laid-back, conspiracy-friendly mixed martial arts podcast king with a face that looks like he got a tattoo from the podcast gods themselves. Tucker is the smug, smirking, mustache-twirling political provocateur who got kicked off Fox News, but somehow came back stronger than a cat with 9 lives. They're ideological opposites on the political chessboard, like fire and ice, or broccoli and, well, still broccoli, but a different kind. Yet somehow, these two completely different beasts have no trouble agreeing on one thing. Kimmel's brand of comedy is a fossil, an endangered species, an exhibit behind glass labeled "Do Not Touch," extinct since 2015. Kimmel's comedy is the theatrical equivalent of a beige wallpaper pattern. Safe, sanitized, corporate approved, and just dull enough to make you wonder, did I just watch a comedy show or a pharma commercial? The poor guy is like a late-night dinosaur trying to roar, but all anyone hears is a cough. His jokes aren't punchlines. They're memo-approved statements on vaccine mandates and woke politics, served with a side of awkward fake laughter and that dead-eyed smile that screams, "I'm paid to pretend this is funny."
The description of a comedian is not so different from the job description of a journalist, as traditionally constituted. Tell the truth about the powerful. Comedians are usually a lot smarter, more clever, and incisive than journalists, but that's what they're supposed to be doing. Almost none still do. Adam Carolla is one of the very few remaining comedians in the United States. He's out with a new book called
Doesn't matter if the content of the speeches is not that interesting to you. Now, Rogan and Carlson, they're the opposite. They are the chaotic good and chaotic neutral forces, tearing apart the old-school late-night mold like it's a piñata full of outdated punchlines. Joe's podcast is like the Wild West of free speech. Long, winding conversations about everything from alien conspiracies to why kale is the devil's salad. It's messy, it's raw, and it doesn't care if a corporate sponsor gets nervous. Meanwhile, Tucker's post-Fox grind is all about short, sharp, viral hits, a digital sniper taking aim at the very fabric of Kimmel's carefully scripted world. No canned jokes, no laugh track, just cold, calculated snark, and the kind of smirk that could slice through steel. The audience shift couldn't be more brutal. While Kimmel's stuck delivering 5-minute monologues with the energy of a guy reading the terms and conditions on a software update, Rogan is hosting 3-hour episodes that dive deep into topics people actually want to hear about. His freedom to explore, question, and occasionally ramble about DMT trips has earned him a cult-like following. Tucker's no slouch either. His viral clips flood social media, racking up millions of views faster than Kimmel can say, "pharmaceutical partnership." Kimmel's viewers are either asleep or have drifted off to greener pastures where comedy doesn't come with a side of virtue signaling and a sprinkle of corporate guilt. He's basically the late-night equivalent of a rotary phone in a world of iPhones. Nostalgic for some, but wildly obsolete for most. Grab this subscribe.
Brutal. Road to obscurity. Nobody's going to care anymore. It's like you're seeing it take place with late night television. Nobody gives a fuck about it anymore.
I know.
And it's slowly, you have a bad business model and you're not adapting.
Yeah, the creativity's gone for late night.
Everything reminds me of something. But here's the real comedy gold. Kimmel didn't just fade quietly into irrelevance. No, this was a spectacular, facepalm-worthy self-immolation. First, he mocked everyday Americans for not getting vaccinated, only to watch half of those same Americans turn off his show faster than you can say canceled. It's like telling your friends they're idiots for skipping leg day, then tripping over your own shoelaces on the treadmill. Epic fail. Then, there's the time he tried to clown Rogan. Oh, the irony. Kimmel's sharpest jab was basically a secondhand insult he picked up from some writer's room brainstorming session, while Rogan responded with a detailed breakdown of why Kimmel doesn't actually research anything before calling people out. Spoiler alert, Rogan's the guy bringing real doctors and scientists onto debate, and Kimmel's the guy who brings on a celebrity guest who just starred in a movie about a talking dog. And don't forget when Kimmel took a shot at Tucker for getting fired from Fox News, as if that was a career-ending scandal. Meanwhile, Tucker went full Phoenix mode, ditched the corporate leash, found a massive new audience on social media, and now has more cultural relevance than Kimmel's entire monologue archive. It's like watching a toddler try to dunk on LeBron James and getting posterized every time. I'd come in here right like, that's not really a thing anymore. The big lesson? Rogan and Tucker figured out the comeback formula Kimmel never bothered to learn. Joe built his empire from the ground up, starting with a tiny garage studio, a bunch of weed jokes, and a raw, unfiltered approach that hooked millions. Tucker rebuilt his brand from the ashes of corporate exile, transforming into a digital age media powerhouse who doesn't need a TV contract to be heard. Meanwhile, Kimmel? He's stuck in a time loop, reading off cue cards about Trump jokes from 5 years ago and pretending that being edgy means repeating the same tired punchlines while sitting behind a desk sponsored by Big Pharma. If comedy was a battlefield, Kimmel's still waving a white flag while Rogan and Tucker are launching verbal grenades. The ultimate irony is delicious. Kimmel tried to punch up at two giants from opposite sides of the arena, and in the process, he managed to punch himself square in the career. It's a roast nobody asked for, but everyone's watching. The guy who tried to mock Rogan's dangerous ideas and Tucker's fired for a reason status just ended up getting schooled on how media disruption really works. So no, Rogan and Tucker didn't need to team up. Their destruction of Kimmel was a natural collision course, like tectonic plates grinding beneath the surface until the whole fragile late-night comedy world cracked wide open. Kimmel became the cultural eye roll at the center of it all. Too safe, too scripted, and too out of touch to survive a media ecosystem that now prizes authenticity, unpredictability, and a little bit of chaos. And let's be honest, watching Kimmel try to keep up is like watching a mime desperately trying to talk. It's awkward and embarrassing, and you can't look away. The damage is permanent. Rogan's audience didn't just laugh, they nodded in knowing agreement. Tucker's fans didn't just cheer, they turned it into a meme, a movement, and probably a poorly spelled t-shirt. Kimmel, he kept reading from the cue card, blissfully unaware that the people he used to mock are now doing it better. This left of Kimmel is a cautionary tale with a studio banned. A once funny man now reduced to a human bumper sticker for whatever cause fits that week's poll numbers. He's not edgy, he's not funny, and thanks to Joe Rogan and Tucker Carlson, he's not even safe from ridicule anymore. Because here's the final punchline. Neither of these guys were trying to destroy Jimmy Kimmel. They just told the truth. And in a world where Kimmel's truth is whatever gets clapped at before commercial break, that honesty might just be the coolest joke of all.